pay subsidies to Canada and to Mexico of hundreds of billions of dollars.
The only consistent reason for tariffs coming out of the White House has been concerns over the trade deficit. But here's the thing, tariffs won't fix it. The trade deficit is when we import more than we export. That means we buy more goods and services from the rest of the world than they buy from us. And in the US, that turns out to be around negative 3% of GDP. So the thinking goes, let's impose some tariffs to fix this balance. It will increase the price of these goods and therefore lower imports. The thing is, the effects don't end there. There is a huge international market for dollars. Supply and demand, the whole bit. When less dollars are going abroad to pay for imports, it will reduce the supply of dollars to foreigners. With less supply, international dollars are now more scarce, thus the price or the exchange rate increases. When Japan wants to buy wheat grown in my home county, it's going to be a little more expensive. So that means our farmers and the rest of the economy are going to sell less exports. In net, the decline in imports is also accompanied by a decline in export. In net, nothing changes. Plus, you add in the retaliatory tariffs, exacerbating this effect. And we see this in the real world. The countries with the highest tariffs, as represented along the horizontal axis, have a statistically significant correlation with greater trade deficits. Now, the macroeconomy obviously has a lot of other things going on, but it's noteworthy that the relationship doesn't go the other way. But if that's not how you do it, how does one rebalance the trade deficit? I mean, we've been having it here for like 50 years. Well, the thing is, it's not really a deficit of the economy as a whole. You can't actively spend this in most countries on the planet. This George Washington is going to eventually come back home. Here's an example. Later on this year, when we all buy the Switch 2 from Japan, this dollar is going to go across the ocean. And then the Japanese aren't just going to keep all these dollars. They have two options. Buy wheat or other goods and services from our economy, or they can invest in an American steel company, expanding it, creating new American jobs. In fact, when we put this all together, the negative trade deficit is exactly mirrored by a positive investment surplus. This is why that whole thing about a trade deficit being a subsidy to the rest of the world doesn't make any sense. I mean, is the rest of the world subsidizing American investment? The rest of the world invests more into America than what America invests into the rest of the world. We don't just consume with dollars, we also invest with dollars. Okay, but what if we really do want to change this? I mean, it didn't always used to be this way. Economists do actively debate whether or not a trade deficit is good or bad or neutral, and they also actively debate the causes thereof. One contributing factor that we basically all agree on is the role of the federal budget deficit. It too has been growing alongside the trade deficit over the past 50 years. The American government has been borrowing more and more, and a lot of that borrowing comes from abroad as foreigners invest in treasuries. I mean, just open up any standard macroeconomic textbook. Here's Mankew's Intermediate. He calls it the twin deficits. So, is the current administration looking to lower the budget deficit in order to rebalance the trade deficit? No. Definitely not. I mean, look, Trump has believed that tariffs can lower the trade deficit for 45 years. But the macroeconomy doesn't care what you believe. It's just going to do what it's going to do.